brand new and out today, the latest by Kate Moretti called The Vanishing Year. Nothing like chatting with an author on Pub Day. Kate Moretti is the New York Times best-selling author of Thought I Knew You, Binds That Tie, and While You Were Gone. She lives in eastern Pennsylvania with her husband and children. You can find her on katemoretti.com, on Twitter, on Instagram, Facebook, right here on Reading with Robin. And I want to welcome you to the program for your first visit. Welcome to the show, Kate Moretti. I can't believe we've never chatted before.
No, thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm thrilled to have you, and I feel like we've been following each other on Facebook. You know, when you know someone on social media, there's a very different sense of like, wait, have we met? Have we chatted?
Yeah, you don't know. I see people. I've met people. I just went to VoucherCon, which is the worldwide mystery convention in New Orleans, and it was fantastic. But there were so many people that I met there that I thought, wait, have we ever met in person? And then we couldn't remember because you just know so much about each other's lives. It's like, oh, how's your daughter? You know, like social media has really brought everybody so close.
That is the good news for social media. There's the
which I like, you know, I don't mind that. Some people don't really like it. They feel like it's invasive, but I'm not one of them. I really like it. I think it's fun.
Well, you know, we put the things out there. So, you know, when you run into somebody and they ask you, you know, how your dog's doing or how was your trip or you have nothing to say to them because they've seen it all, we're the ones that are choosing to put it out there. But I think it's more good than not. So talk about this. So this just happened in New Orleans last week?
Yeah, I just went to it's the Mystery Writers of America conference, and it was for I think 5 days and 4 nights.
Wow.
I stayed. And it was so much fun. It was exhausting, but boy, was it just, it was from Wednesday to Sunday, and we flew in Wednesday night, and then I left pretty early Sunday morning. So I didn't really stay for the Sunday festivities, but, you know, it's
that's the
panels of these wonderful speakers, and then in between everybody goes down to the lobby, and you just get to mix and mingle, and everyone's very nice and laid back, and you can pretty much talk to anyone.
And that's the best part.
Fantastic.
Those events are exhausting. They're just a mentally draining thing. And and as you're talking about leaving on Sunday, I know I've done these events where I leave a little earlier, and everybody has to sort of come and go as it works for them. But I'm always thinking, what am I missing? And then you see.
Oh yeah, I did that. There was the last panel on Sunday was so great. I mean, it was Karen Slaughter and Harlan Coben and all these great authors, and they were all together in one room. And I thought it would be great because I don't think there's going to be that many people there, so it would be like a little more intimate if I just would have stayed. But I got on the plane and I thought, oh, thank gosh I'm going home because I was exhausted. It's so tiring. But
it's a lot of smiling. It's a lot of talking.
It's so much smiling.
It's a lot of recalling of titles you've read, and everybody's sort of mangling what they think that they've read. And I know that there's just such an amazing energy at these book festivals, at the conferences, at the trade, and then it turns into that. And all of these people from different parts of your world and the ones you know on social media, I'm getting just overwhelmed just like thinking about this, Kate.
Yes, it was wonderful. And Atria had a nice setup for the Vanishing Year, and they had a cocktail party that I went to, so I was able to meet some of my publicity team, and Hillary and David were so much fun. And so that was the whole thing. 6 other Atria authors there. I think there were 6 of us total.
I'm going to say, who else was there? And I won't put you on
from
the spot.
Atria, it was Christine Carbo, Mindy Magia, Matthew Bentley, John Connolly, and R.J. No, I'm forgetting the last one.
No, it's impossible.
I feel terrible
that was
about
very.
That. I know, I'm kind of impressed, but I only met. I didn't meet John Connolly at all, which I was a little disappointed about. But he was over talking to someone than I was, and then it just didn't work. You know, it just ended up not really working. The whole thing was just. I couldn't believe how much fun.
And how many new book titles did you scribble down and hope that you're going to get to a third of them?
More than that. I came home with about 20 books.
You actually brought them home. Sometimes I ask them to mail them, so you schlepped them all the way home.
I schlepped them all the way home. I kept sliding them in my suitcase and then putting my suitcase on the scale want to fly, and I got it to 49 pounds because if it's over 50, it's a.
I am
so
well
at 49,
aware.
I was like, well, I guess I have to carry the wet rest home, and it was fine. It wasn't that many.
Hilarious, because that I know people that will, and I know like at Book Expo they'll ship them, and we're having this like very insider conversation. I'm speaking with Kate Moretti, and she is the author of The Vanishing Year, just out today. And from Mary Kubica, which is huge, a perfectly compulsive read that's impossible to put down, which is so true. Gorgeous cover, fabulous story, and it's KateMoretti.com. You can follow her on Twitter, Kate Moretti1, or on Facebook, Kate Moretti Writer. I'm assuming there's a Kate Moretti without a 1 somewhere out there.
There is. There is, and sometimes I get her tweets. I think she might be like a college student.
Because that happens. You know, Twitter can be tricky. I was wondering if at least she was a fan, or did you send her a book and say we share?
No, I didn't. I don't know her at all.
Oh. Well, this is so much fun. There's nothing like talking to an author, and also the authors that are so enthusiastic as readers and writers and all of it, which many are. But this is like, I can feel the energy back and forth here, and you're with Atria, and I love Atria. The book is just out. It's not your first book, second, third. It's your fourth, right?
I have 2 previous novels and then 1 novella that was sort of a companion to Vanishing, which is While You Were Gone.
Okay, so I wasn't sure. But it's just, I mean, every time it must be even more exciting or just more overwhelming. And I especially love the inscription, the dedication to your mom. And it's so funny. I just had this conversation with somebody at an event, and they said, oh, you know, I never read acknowledgments or dedications. And to me, that must be one of the most difficult parts of writing a book. And I always read those. But you say to my mom, this one should have enough plot for you. Pretty sure. So I was wondering, is your mom one of your first readers? Does she ask for more plot?
My mom, it's a kind of funny story. And when I first turned the book in, I remember my agent said to me, is your mom critical? And I said, oh my gosh, no. It's like such a private joke. So, and I tell this story with, my mom carries around my cards and will put them in books, you know, in bookstores. She's the biggest promoter of me. Her entire graduating class comes to my book signings. Like, she is my mega fan. Okay, I love it too. I love her. But so when I first wrote a book, you know, when you write your first novel, you're very scared, and you're thinking, what is it? You know, what have I? Oh my gosh, what have I done? I know I've heard plenty of people say they wrote their first novel in secret, and they didn't write mine in secret, but I didn't tell everyone because it seems weird, and you're not a writer yet, you know. So I wrote the first novel, and I let my mom read it, and it was what became Thought I Knew You, but at the time it wasn't very good, and she did think it was good, so she read the whole thing, you know, and she comes back and she hands it back to me. She goes, oh, I thought it was very good. I was very into the story, and the main character was modeled very much after me, so she kept saying, I just keep reading you, you know. But then she's sitting there, she's quiet for a minute, and I said, Mom, what do you mean? What's the matter? And she said, well, you know, I just kind of thought that the boyfriend would end up being the killer. And I said, Mom, there's no killer. There's no killer in this book. Like, it's not a murder. Like, nothing happened. And she goes, yeah, I know. You know, I was a little disappointed by that.
I love your mom. And, you know, the way you dedicated to her, I thought it was definitely an inside kind of joke. I think it was very clever and charming because that's what mothers do. We want the best for our children. We want, you know, but in a gentle, supportive way. And
yes,
and it
was
sounds
just
like you take that advice from her because she only means it in the best of ways. But I love that.
Yeah, she just, well, my mom and I, and the backstory to this is my mom and I have traded these hyper plot books. I mean, like, we've read Harlan Coben, Michael Connelly, like Linwood Barclay. I mean, every page is a cliffhanger, and you know, and I love that stuff. As I matured as a writer, I got a little more into depth of character.
Right.
And I really like description, and, you know, I kind of got a little bit away from this very plot heavy, and I love both, but, you know, for different reasons. But my mom, her favorites are still, like, the page turners.
Yeah.
So that was sort of the backstory to that, is that she was like, yeah, you know, nobody was murdered. And I said, well, it wasn't really that kind of book. It was like more of an examination of suburban marriage, and
and that's what I love, and I think that's part of. But I can understand a reader who wants to just be like at the edge of their seat, and that was one of the questions I was going to ask you, because in reading a thriller, these page turners, to keep it suspenseful, and what for you, and I'm on the phone. It is Pub Day for the Vanishing Year, Kate Moretti. We're chatting. Find her on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, on her website, all over the place. Like, what scares you as a reader, or what keeps you at the edge of your seat, and how do you keep that to me it seems like you do it so well, a really difficult task in writing. And your readers, clearly, starting with your mom, they know what they want from you. So how do you manage all of that?
I think it's really hard. I think as a reader, when I'm reading someone else's book, first of all, I do think you have to be somewhat attached to the character. Mm-hmm. And that doesn't mean, and I hate the phrase likable character. I don't have to like them. They don't have to be my friend. But I still have to feel like some kind of emotional connection, that I want the same things that they want, even when the things that they want are sort of morally ambiguous. So that's the trick. If you're going to write an unlikable character, you have to get your reader kind of on your side, and it's really hard to do. And I've succeeded in some places and I've failed in some places, depending on the reader, And so I think that's the number one. I think once your readers are invested in your characters, you can kind of take them anywhere, and it doesn't always matter, which is sort of the fun part, And I always use Ann Tyler's The Accidental Tourist is like my example for this, because that is a book that has like almost no plot. And I say there's like pages devoted to making Larry shower his grooming habits, and the whole time you're riveted. And that was one book that really taught me about how if you write character well, it does not matter what they're doing. Your reader is along for the ride, and they are not bored.
Unless they're your mother and they want to murder.
Unless they're my mother, and then they want the the murdery things.
I love that part of when I'm reading a book and you really are so into the character. And I've had this discussion many times. I'm fascinated by this essence of a likable character. When I'm speaking with readers who will say, "Well, they weren't very nice." I'm like, "What's nice? Who wants a nice character?" I mean, interesting and right, and then for them to do things and. Otherwise, I don't even understand what that means, but there is a whole dialogue going on. Well,
I think readers mistake likability for that emotional attachment. So,
I think you're right. Yeah.
It's like when you read like the Hannibal Lecter books. Like you didn't like him, but you were along for that ride. You know what I mean? So I don't think you have to like him.
No, absolutely not. And in fact, if you did. And I'm on the phone with Kate Moretti, The Vanishing Year, her brand new novel out by Atria today. And Kate will be at Point Street Reading Series. It's always the third Tuesday here in Providence, Rhode Island, and it is November 15th. I'm so excited that you're coming to read here.
I am so excited, too. I'm thrilled.
It's a wonderful community of readers, and it's been building since we started. And for those listening, you can check out Point Street Reading Series on Facebook. It's another thing I always forget to do when I'm doing interviews. You can also go to Reading with Robin or go to my readingwithrobin.com. Check out everything that's going on and a lot of really interesting discussion. I love when the authors, and I know you've been back and forth on the page, the readers love to hear from the authors. It's one of my favorite things when a book comes up and I tag an author and then there's the back and forth, because it's the readers and the writers. That's what this is all about. So
yes, and I try very hard to make sure that I do that. And I'm always worried that I'm going to miss one.
You're really good at it. No. Well, it's funny because you check these notifications and we're all, back and forth, and the social media aspect is, just part of it, and it's a wonderful part. I'm the same thing. I always try and get to the bottom and work my way back up, but it is possible. But if I think somebody hasn't answered somebody, if I remember, I do a little nudge. So it's impossible to stay on top of it. And then read as well. What are you reading right now? What did you take back, carry, or put in the suitcase that is keeping you up at night?
Right now I just started Good As Gone by Amy Gentry, and I just finished The Likeness by Tana French. I've gotten really into Tana French because I feel like she does such an amazing job with characterization. Her books are they're very dense. Like there's so much that she puts into them that I feel like I need a couple days to come out of her world. You know what I mean?
There's something about that when you finish a book. I know people call it a book hangover or whatever.
Yeah. Oh, gosh.
There is something about just really deciding, and I think that's an interesting moment also as a reader. When you finished one, if you know what you're going to read next, if you need a few days in between, if you're going to switch genres or you just put one down, pick one up, like a potato chip kind of thing. But I have her new book. I didn't start it yet. Piles.
Oh, Chain of French. No, I started from the beginning not that long ago. I just read In the Woods, I don't know, maybe a month ago. 2 months ago, something like that.
It's impossible to read them all as they come out. That's the other,
I know.
right, the fetch of the reader-writer, because it's just impossible when so many are coming at us all the time. And The Vanishing Year is out today. Kate Moretti is my guest. You can visit her website and her Facebook page and on Twitter. What's your favorite social media platform? I know you have to use them all, but which is your favorite?
I don't know. I really, really like social media. I use Twitter to dump all my dumb thoughts that I have while I'm doing dishes. And it's so funny because you can put it out there and you'll get a couple like ha-has or retweets or, hearts, and then it's gone. And then you never think about it again. But it's just a neat place to say like, oh, what if they invented, this crazy thing or whatever.
I agree. It's really a great thing. Like you're doing the dishes, and I call those sometimes my shower thoughts.
Like you're just distracted and you're doing something. You're like, oh my gosh, that would be really funny. And, sometimes you text it to your best friend. Sometimes you tweet it. Like that's what I like to use Twitter for the most. But I mean, it does, like, especially now that I have a book coming out, it becomes sort of this promotional machine, and there's not any space for my little dumb thoughts. And then there's also not as many dumb thoughts in my brain because I'm so crazy, like trying to get it all in,
Keep the dumb thoughts coming. You can find Kate at
so
Kate Moretti 1.
perfect.
Those are my favorite. Kate Moretti 1 Twitter. I know I tweeted out earlier. It's called Follow Up for a reason, because I was just thinking about people that we meet, and you switch cards and you have this amazing conversation, and I'm really a firm believer in follow-up. In fact, if I don't follow up with somebody, I always tell them something might have happened to me. I might be, in Kate Moretti's next novel. I don't know. But that's the thing. And I think, no way. They forgot. And so I sort of collect these thoughts in my head, and those are the ones that come out. So that was today's. It's called Follow Up for a reason.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. And sometimes I do fall a little bit sometimes on the follow-up. Sometimes it takes me a while. Like, I'll get a message. Or my sister says I'm famous for getting a text and then answering her back like 11 days later. And she'll have had like whole conversations with me in between there, and then finally I'll answer her text, and she's like, oh, okay, there you are. So my family laughs at me. I said what I said, and so I'm not always a firm believer in text back right away. But
texting is very tricky. I have texts going with my sisters and a few different ones, and then same thing, talking in between. So then, do you go back to answer the text if you've already probably discussed it, but then it's the last thing hanging there? So it's like you haven't finished.
And then people get mad.
Yeah, they do. But you're not on my follow-up list, so it wasn't. That tweet was not aimed actually at anybody in particular. It was like a compilation of people in my mind. But so let's talk about this book. Again, can't ever give too much away on Reading with Robin. So it's this kind of chit-chat that I love, and you are so much fun to talk to. It's Kate Moretti. Visit her at katemoretti.com, and you can find her funny tweets on Kate Moretti 1 on Twitter and Instagram, also Kate Moretti 1. And on Facebook. What do you want the reader to know? It starts off just like, I'm already hooked. You hooked me like on the second sentence. Actually, you hooked me at the dedication to your mom. That was it. I'm like,
oh, good. I'm so glad. I can't wait to tell her because she's very nervous about that dedication.
I love it, and I love that there's a
people
story.
Are going to think badly of her.
I thought it was beautiful. I thought it was a loving mother-daughter thing. That is exactly.
Thank you.
But you're welcome. I love that there was a story, and then you gave me the backstory. And so, I mean, really, how far can we get when we can spend 15 minutes talking about your mom, which I love. Like, to me, that's the best part of an interview is I think the readers really get a sense of who you are and then it's, oh my goodness, I've got to read whatever Kate Moretti is writing because listen to her, she's so entertaining. So a little bit about the story. Talk about Zoe Whittaker.
Oh, geez. Zoe Whittaker is sort of this, she starts off, you think she's this very pulled together, elite type Manhattan lifestyle, which is something I've always admired from afar. I grew up right outside of New York City, but in Pennsylvania, so about an hour away. And when I was in college, I would drive into New York all the time, and sometimes we'd walk around uptown, sometimes we'd go down. We spent a lot of time in the Village because that's what you do when you're in college. And you find free parking somewhere, and we would just drive around. I wasn't afraid of. I had a car breakdown one time in New York, and I blocked up a whole intersection, and everyone was, oh, this Pennsylvania girl, my plate,
well, you can do that. You point to the plate and you say, I'm sorry,
I'm sorry, but it didn't matter. They don't care. They give you the finger anyway.
Yeah, they do.
And so I always loved New York City. It was one of my favorite places on earth. And even after college, when I did some traveling, and I had been to London or Paris or these other cities, I would still come home, and New York still felt like home to me.
Yeah.
And so I thought I will write a book that is set in Manhattan, even though I don't live there, which is a huge undertaking because the people that live there are going to search for
to see how many steps
evidence
there are
that I don't live there,
right?
This is New Yorkers are very they are very proud of where they live. And
exactly.
So
that character would never take a left turn at that hour because the road would be going the other way.
And that stuff, I hope I didn't get wrong. I did a lot of walking the city. I did a lot of so it was really fun. I did a little bit of in-person research. I did a lot of Google mapping.
That works. That's smart.
But then I confirmed it all. I went back and did it in person, which was really great. So this life that she leads is sort of a life I've fantasized about my whole life, this very upper echelon, Manhattan.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought that was really going to be fun to write. And I also, so it starts out this way, but then you realize that she comes from this sort of hodgepodge patchwork background, which was really fun too, because I feel like everybody sort of has that in some way,
exactly.
You are sort of put together when you're young with, what happens to you and the choices you make. And a lot of times, when you're get into your 30s or you're coming near 30, you think, oh, I'll just start over. So that's what she's trying to do.
Interesting. Yeah.
And I always liked the realization that I had in my mid-30s is you can never just start over. You can't just say, okay, I'm just going to forget all of that happened and
no, you
be this whole brand new person.
Neither will people let you.
That.
But Zoe has a secret, of course. And that's the other thing I was going to ask you, and I love to ask writers, the secrets that are at the core of a book or that drive the plot, to just sort of keep coming up with, something that hasn't been done or hasn't been done a different way. And certainly the characters are all different, so the way they'd handle a secret would be different. But I always find that fascinating where, you try and figure out, okay, what could the secret be? Okay, the author's taken me in this direction and I didn't see that coming. What could be the most impossible secret to keep? To always be looking over your shoulder because such and such, and you don't want anyone to ever find this out, and it's horrifying to think that they might. And would it really matter if they did? And what we think is going to be.
So I guess that was sort of my goal, is to give Zoe this, not only the secret that she sort of found horrifying that she did. It wasn't the thing that she's most ashamed of in the book are things that she did, not things that necessarily happened to her.
Which is harder in a lot of ways, really, to come.
Well, yeah, because I want her to remain likable, but I need that secret, and it comes out pretty early in the book, within the first couple chapters. So, maybe not all of it. I'm trying to think.
No, not all of it. And you know what? She's very likable. To me, as a reader, and as a reader of a lot of books, she's incredibly likable. If I was at the New York Public Library event that she starts out hosting, I would want to seek her out and say, "Hey, Zoe, let's grab coffee."
Nice, yeah. I had some help with that menu.
It was great.
Stuff like that, I had to go. I was like, what would be there? But Yeah, so I mean that's kind of the trick is I wanted to give her something that she did that's sort of terrible, but like you still have to keep the reader kind of on her side and say, well, and get them to forgive her for that kind of thing. And I think that's hard to do when you're writing is to give your main characters these fatal flaws and still make sure that they keep the reader's attention. I mean, you go too far in the direction, and the reader's going to say, well, I don't really care what happens to this person anymore because they're horrible.
And have you ever found that, read a book where if that's the case, that you don't care really what's happening, that you would put it, I mean, are you, and that's another question too, are you somebody, because I am, who will put a book down, or we've had discussions about people who absolutely will never they will get to the end of the book no matter what, or are there times where you just think, no?
No, I'll read 50 pages, and it's like there are books that I have picked up, and I said, this is very well written, and for some reason it's just me or the mood I'm in or the thing I'm looking for, it's not working right now. And, you know, if enough people still say, oh, you gotta get back to it, I'll try it again, you know. I think reading is so personal, you know, that's why.
It is. It's very personal. And the people that say you have to get back to it, you have to make sure that they're not the kind of people that just have issues where they have to finish. Because
oh, yeah.
Because it
I'm
may
not
not
a
be
much
that the book
finisher.
is awesome. It may not be that it's the book. It may just be their own issue.
They want you to finish it.
Something about that. There are so many things about, you know, reading is such an active thing, and the discussions and what we bring to the book, and exactly your point of what the mood you're in. And I contend also the book that you just read, sometimes it's an unfair pairing.
That is a huge thing,
right?
Because I know
it's
right
random
now, like,
sometimes.
I loved the book I just read was The Likeness by Tana French, and now I'm having a really hard time picking something else. So I picked a couple of books. Now finally I grabbed Good as Gone by Amy Gentry, and I am super into it. I'm only about 20 pages in, but I flew through those 20 pages. Like,
and isn't that the best when you know you're coming back to? I used to say when you're coming back home to a great book, but sometimes to me it's in the car. You know, it's waiting for me, or it's in my purse, or I'm bringing it somewhere. Like, you know, it's almost like having a great secret. Like,
oh yeah,
when I'm read this. Yeah.
When I'm in the middle of a good book, I read it constantly. Like one of my favorite things about having a Kindle, and while I do like the paper book, the thing that I love so much about having the Kindle is I always then go and try to grab the audio.
Smart.
And then what I do is Kindle and audio will sync.
So you catch up.
And I can catch up, so I can be doing things, like a lot of times I'll listen to the book I commute to a day job a couple days a week. So I'll listen on my commute, and then I'll get home, and when you pick up your Kindle, it's in the same spot where you stop listening.
That is so cool. I didn't, I haven't jumped over to that side, and I don't know. I never say never.
It's a recent crossover for me.
That's so efficient. I love that.
It's my new obsession. Actually, there's one book. I'm listening to Where'd You Go, Bernadette, and I refuse to read it. Because the audio experience is so fantastic. Like, I feel like I'm listening to a play.
That's so cool to know.
The narrator's voice is amazing. It's perfect for the book. She does all of the different, because it's done in like emails, and she does the child's voice, the daughter B's voice, the daughter different than the,
what a talent.
LG's. Yeah, oh my gosh, it's amazing. And it has like this perfect snappy accent. I adore it. I can't, and I've been listening to it for like a month because I don't commute into work as much anymore.
It changes up your reading habits when you're.
It does. Now it's taking forever, and I just, I got to this like almost, I don't know, probably like 70% through, and it's like things are really starting to happen, and I'm like, well, I don't want to pick it up and read it because the voice is so great. But now I'm thinking about it.
That's really good to know. I'm glad that came up because it's not something that everybody takes part in, and that's a really good way to sort of marry the both. And I know that there are readers that people they will listen to books depending on the reader, and obviously the author, but sometimes it's the reader. So hey, whatever works. But before I let you go, because the time always goes too quickly, I am speaking again to Kate Moretti. I'm like getting lost in this conversation. The Vanishing Year is just out today. Oh, you've got so much praise for this book, and I'm so excited to be on your Facebook page and see what your readers will share. And I hope there are more mindless thoughts coming to Twitter And
please, I hope I have room for them again.
Please don't stop that. Please don't stop those. You'll have room. I have a feeling you'll have room. Do you have, and your children, are they big readers? I always like to ask when they're
everyone says, oh, you can make a reader, and I have learned you cannot. Now, my youngest is just in kindergarten, and she reads probably at a second grade level, and she is voracious. Everything you put in front of her, she reads. Stop signs as we're driving, she never stops. And it's
Does she
wonderful.
tell you to stop? Mom, that one said stop.
Oh.
That's
sometimes street signs, yeah. Like she'll tell me, she'll say, Mom, this city is it says 10, it's 10 miles away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you're in kindergarten. Like, how do you even know this stuff? But now my oldest, I fight tooth and nail. And the only books I can get her interested in are the Magic Treehouse series. And we've read them all.
Keep them coming,
and I've done nothing different with them. We read together every night. We read a chapter of the Magic Treehouse, but honestly, we read them all, and we're out of them, and I don't know what to do.
Well, go on. You know what? Go on my Facebook page, on the Reading with Robin Facebook page, and post that, because my readers love to help share titles. So if you say, we're out of Magic Treehouse, if you love Mary Pope Osborne, who do you recommend? You may get some really good recs, and there are a lot of librarians.
That's a really good idea.
I love
a very good
that.
idea.
It's a great community, and people love to tell other people what they're enjoying or what their kids liked. But I think also there is that idea of when they're little, they either are or they aren't, and they can grow into it. I think like Julia Roberts, in Pretty Woman, you either love the opera or you can grow to love it, whatever the Richard Gere line is that I just mangled, but it's one of my favorites. And then they, when they find something that they love, they just go with it. So But I love that. I used to really enjoy the speed limit says 30. Why does the car say 50?
Right.
You just know it's so nice to have smart children who are paying attention.
Oh, I know. That's wonderful so much. And they tell me all the time that I'm speeding and that I don't put my seatbelt on fast enough, I said, we're still in the parking lot, and it's not. Oh, my goodness. Well, how did I get to be 38 years old without you?
I know, it is a surprising thing, and there's nothing like it. I love the From the Mouths of Babes. And the Vanishing Year, Kate Moretti. Please visit her website at katemoretti.com and find her everywhere on Reading with Robin. And this was such a pleasure, and congratulations on Pub Day. So cool.
Oh, thank you so much.